Welcome back to another Odd Popcorn for that review. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
Guys, if you're just joining us for the first time, we would love for you to hit subscribe and come back next week. We got videos coming out every week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. But we are here today to talk about The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So this is a brand new movie by Andre Overdahl, who also directed. He's got a handful of good ones, but I just mentioned recently the Autopsy of Jane Doe, and he also did Troll Hunter and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I've only half seen, but Autopsy of Jane Doe was great. So anyway, and this is basically I haven't read the or if I have, it's been too long and I've forgotten, but I haven't read the Bram Stoker's Dracula book before. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I'd like to.
Me too.
But apparently, this is at least loosely based on the first chapter of Bram Stoker's Dracula. So the director says it's essentially, and I get where he's coming from. The director says it's essentially Alien, but it's on a boat, and
Dude,
instead of a xenomorph.
I had not heard that comparison before, but I while I was watching it, I was like, this kind of feels like, like Alien or something like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's crazy.
So and it is essentially Alien, but instead of a xenomorph, it's Dracula, and they're on a boat. Um, and you pretty much get what you pay for. But I wanted to specifically ask you what you thought about the beginning, the very very beginning of this movie, or that choice anyway.
I thought it was all right. Like, what do you mean, like when they're at the harbor and getting picked up and stuff?
For me, the movie kind of starts at its end, and kind of working our way backward from that. Like
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you kind of see what's gonna happen,
Yeah, I
and
was
then
thinking
and
of
then we
the
watch
scene
the
that.
movie that gets us there.
Yeah, so I mean, but it is kind of like a little. They let you make it seem like something happened one way, and then I guess it didn't happen all the
Yeah, I
way
mean it's a
that
little,
way.
but I just thought that to me, like, not that I didn't kind of know. I mean, it's kind of telegraphed right in the title of the movie, "The Last Voyage of the Demeter."
Yeah.
But like knowing right off the bat that the ship shows up and no one's on, like everyone on it is dead,
Mhm.
and we know Dracula didn't die because just in general, like we know he lives on. This is the
Right.
first chapter of the book, um, so we know Dracula doesn't die. We know that the boat comes back empty, or nobody lives through it. Uh, and I think that kind of took a little bit of the wind out of its sails, pun intended. It
Yeah.
kind of took the stakes out of it, pun intended. But I don't know. I mean, you do kind of, like I said, you do kind of know right off the bat, based on the title alone, how this is going to go. It just was. I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but it was a very straightforward movie. But but I do have there's plenty of positive to say. So
Mhm.
what were some things you liked about this?
I thought the creature design for Dracula was pretty good. Like he was pretty creepy looking. I like cuz from the trailers I was kind of thinking this movie's not going to be that great. I enjoyed it. The story was good. Like you said, it's kind of reminded you of like Alien uh
Mm-hmm.
but with a vampire. There were like little details that they added that from like vampire lore that I thought was pretty cool. How like there's a bunch of these cargo crates that are filled with dirt, which is one of the things about vampires traveling is they have to have like the dirt from their homeland to be able
Mm-hmm.
to travel. And I was like, that was a pretty cool little detail.
Yeah, and I actually didn't even know that until this movie. But like, I guess that, yeah, I guess you have to travel with the soul from your homeland.
Yeah. Uh,
Uh,
I thought the story was pretty good. The characters were good. Um,
I thought it was shot really well. Like it
yeah.
looks good. You know what I mean? Like it looks like the production design and everything is good. And like the inside of the boat. We spend most of our time inside this boat, and they do a good job making it look like of its time period and very like lived in and real. I thought that was good.
Mhm.
But just in general, just like the camera work and stuff is good. Nothing like blowing anybody's mind about cinematography per se, but like
Yeah.
it's a well shot movie. It looks nice.
And like one of the small details, which I'm sure is in the book, the name of the boat is Demeter, who's like the goddess of harvest, and that's kind of like the I can't remember what it's called, but like the on the front of the boat, that's got Demeter holding like a sickle and some wheat, and it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of also like a play on how Dracula is harvesting these people because he's eating them for food, and I like that little detail.
And I'll say another thing that is for me was a positive, which to the extent that this can be spoiled, I guess this is spoilery, so I would skip, click off this video now or whatever. But we kind of up front spoiled a little bit of it in just the title alone. Um, but one thing that I got to give it credit for, and maybe some people would not knock off points for this, but one thing I kind of have to give it credit for is having the guts to do something a lot of horror movies won't do, which is the kids aren't safe in this one,
Right.
uh, and the dog too. I mean, not the first horror movie to do that with the dog,
Mm.
but and I can honestly see more people being bothered by the dog than anything. But you don't see too much with the dog really.
Nah, I think you just
But
see its body.
the kid, I mean, they kind of went there, and I gotta hand it to them for going there and not being. And I'm kind of surprised it being PG-13, the level of gore they were able to get in here. It's nothing like insanity or anything, but this does go pretty hard from time to time. And for PG-13, I wasn't sure that they'd be allowed to go as hard as they did occasionally. I don't know how you felt on that
Well, with
end of things.
American films, like rating system, PG-13 can have a ton of gore, but you show you one boob or whatever, it's rated R.
Yeah,
So like a
two
lot,
F words in your.
yeah. So I mean, there's plenty of gory movies that are rated PG-13.
I guess I was worried going into this being PG-13 that it was going to be a little light on the,
Like it would show a
it's
slash or something and like a
cuts
tiny little
away
blood.
or.
Yeah, no, it showed
Hmm.
quite a bit of like gore, like people's being sliced open and stuff.
I mean, it certainly could have gone. If it had been R-rated, they could have gone even crazier than this for sure.
Mm,
But like nobody gets like ripped in half or something like that. But you certainly get, they don't shy away. The camera doesn't shy away from anything. And like you said, the creature design I think is good. I do think it's like it's pulled off better when it's practical effects, and I think
yeah,
it's probably about half and half, or
I think it was
like,
mainly CGI.
well, they've talked about it being like a lot of that is practical. So
Huh.
I don't know. There's a chance that I'm misinterpreting them saying that like a large percentage of the movie is practical effects, and then like me misinterpreting that as like them saying a lot of the vampire himself, Dracula himself, is practical. But I know
Yeah.
at least some of that is practical effects because there is an actor in there. Like they just do it. They do rely on CGI a lot for that, and I think it in general holds more weight when it's practical effects. But you know,
Yeah, it's hard to
uh,
do with kind of like what he was doing on the ship and stuff to be all practical, flying around and all that. But
and, and there was a couple. So like for me, this there were like a couple standout performances, and then most of the other performances were kind of like in general good, but nothing crazy. But I
mm,
think that the uh, for me, David Desmalchin and Liam Cunningham
mm-hmm.
were kind of stood out more even than Corey Hawkins. Corey Hawkins is kind of our lead here, but I didn't think he was bad, but I just thought um, I don't know, maybe it's just that David Desmalchin's performance shined a little bit more to me because I just think that guy's really showing out, and he's like a really, like a working, very much a working actor, and he's been in a handful of movies just this year, and it just seems like he pops up in everything. And I'm not saying he's a full blown chameleon, like he plays a different role every time you see him, but this is a really unique one for him,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of stood out for me because he usually, I don't know, I feel like he's not typecast by any means, but he does like tend to be like the creepy guy or like the
A timid, like,
unusual guy, shy
yeah,
guy, something like in that line. And this one, he's kind of at the forefront and kind of a really strong, like gritty, no nonsense screen presence. He's about to be handed the role of captain from the current captain, Liam Cunningham's character. Um, but yeah, David Desmalchin stood out to me a lot. I didn't get a whole lot from the female performance. So the one other thing about this that we didn't mention, besides just that it's like Dracula on a boat and a doomed crew and everything, is they find a woman on the boat, and I'm actually not 100%. I feel like I must have zoned out a little bit when they went into detail about why she's on the boat. So you might have to help me there. But they find this woman on the boat, and like everything starts going crazy, and the questions start flying around, accusations and stuff, and some people are thinking that she might be she's the unusual thing that showed up, and then all this chaos started happening. So did you hear? I know she was like
ish.
Romanian, and he had been involved in her life some kind of way, but I'm not sure I've
Yeah, the way it
caught
made
the
it
full
seem
picture.
is like the villagers of her town always made a deal with him, and I guess basically it seemed like they gave her to him as not necessarily a sacrifice, but like just someone to feed off of on the
Mm.
voyage. So I guess she was supposed to be in her box the whole time, and he was just gonna feed on her and not feed on anybody else. But then there's a moment in the movie where she gets spilled out of her box.
Okay, but
That's
it
what
seems. I
I
mean,
kind of thought.
if he's gonna be on this boat for like a month and he's gonna pick off all these people, like, it's weird that like one was supposed to be enough, and then when the one didn't work out, then he's gonna kill like 12 people. I
Well,
don't know,
but I think it
but
was more of like he was going to be able to keep feeding on her in the box without anybody knowing, and once she gets out, he has to feed on somebody
nah,
else or
yeah,
her,
fair.
but like because he would have been able to feed on her like once and then let her heal back up and get her blood back for a little while and then just keep going back to her, but once she gets released, he's got to find another source.
And and this is very much a monster Dracula. So there's really not much human here. I mean, he
He does,
smiles at one
yeah.
point and he says a couple words, but it feels very like mimicking, like parroting somebody else's words. And so he's very much like a monster that sometimes wears a human suit, I guess,
Mhm.
sort of, kind of. And I think there's good and bad about that. I think it's a neutral. I mean, you either like that or you don't. If you're really drawn to only like the very human version of Dracula, then this is more like a bat human hybrid
Mhm.
situation, or a Nosferatu, even more, even less human than Nosferatu. Uh, but yeah, and another little like maybe um, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a nitpicky negative, but like for me, the pacing it wasn't too bad. I was worried I was gonna have a harder time with this movie because 2 hours is a little long for a straightforward story like this. Just on its surface, to me, it seems like it might be. I didn't really have a problem with it, but it does. There was a moment there in the middle where I wasn't getting bored, but it felt a little rinse repeat in that the same thing keeps happening, kind of. So like
Yeah.
somebody will get taken by him, and then he's rationing himself. So somebody will get taken by him, and then it's like, oh, where's what's his name? And then we got to look for him, and then we find out it's. And this happens again the next day, and the next day, and I don't know what they could have done differently or whatever, but it feels a little crazy that we keep like. I don't know. They just keep pressing on. I don't know. It seems like there would be like we got to get a game plan a little earlier on or something, but they
Yeah,
don't know. At first, they don't know what's happening to them. So
and the thing for me that I will nitpick about it is on this month long voyage, and I mean he's just picking people off every like 10
it,
days or something, or like 6 days.
they make it feel like it's every day.
Yeah, well they even said like one a night or something, but it's like there's not enough people
But
on
there's
this
not
boat.
30. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
not 30
there's
people
like
on the boat.
barely 10 people on the boat, and the main character and the girl character find his like cargo crate that he's sleeping in,
Hmm.
and I don't know how many days are left at that point, but it's like he's going to be in there and during the day. Why not go get him during the day? Unless that was like the night before they were supposed to get to England or something. It
Yeah,
didn't
or
really give you a
like
time frame.
if she could have shared more information, like it seems like she would have known that the soil is a very important thing and like crucial to his survival. Because they could, I mean, I realize like a movie has to happen,
Yeah,
but they could have like taken all that soil and just dumped it overboard, and then I
right.
think I don't know
Well,
what happens
yeah.
to him next, but that's some kind of way tied to his vitality, so it's worth a shot. So I don't know, but it seems like there were ways out of this that didn't work out, and there's a lot of like scenes that I felt like didn't quite have the emotional weight that they could have had because it's like I promise to keep you safe, and then it's like, well, that's for sure not gonna happen. That's for sure not gonna
Right.
happen. The other thing is, and this is probably the biggest uh, uh, nitpick for me or con for me, and it's the most spoilery thing. So if you've made it this far, I would not. If you're gonna watch this at all, I would not watch this part. But at the very end, our main character, I can't. What's his name on the movie? Corey Corey's uh,
Oh goodness.
Corey Hawkins' character. I can't think of his actual name. The main guy.
It's I can't remember. It's like Krellin or
Uh,
something like that. I can't remember.
it's Clemens.
Clemens, yeah.
They say Wojciech like so many times throughout this movie, you forget what the actual man. David Desmalgin's character is like Wojciech or Wojciech or something,
Mhm.
and they say that like a trillion times in this movie. But yeah, Clemens somehow does survive. So like, well, he and Anna survive, but then we find out Anna has been bitten at some point, and she's realized it, and because she's like a main character, essentially, it's taken an extra long time to like have any symptoms or whatever. She's like known for 4 days that she's gonna turn,
Mhm.
and so she's turning into a vampire, and that they're the only ones that have survived. Uh, but made it off the ship, and they're just floating on these pieces of boat essentially, and she turns and the sun rises and she bursts into flames, and it seems like there was almost supposed to be like a romantic connection there, or at least a friendship connection there. I'm not sure they developed that quite enough for us to feel the attachment between
Yeah.
them, but you can tell he's upset, and it makes enough sense. But so ultimately he does survive, and I don't think that's based on anything in the book, which is fine. But he goes on to England and lives out a life, and it's almost like he's gonna be like, they almost make it seem like we're gonna set up a sequel and he's gonna be like a Van Helsing type guy,
Right.
like the vampire hunter or whatever. And the dialogue at the end about him writing the letter to whoever saying like, I'm gonna hunt this thing down, and I'm never gonna rest until I get him and send him back to hell where he came from. That's like the last line. I'm gonna send him back to hell where he came from, and the movie just ends. I don't know. That felt a little silly or like abrupt or both.
Yeah.
Something about that was, I thought we could have done without that. Maybe he could survive. I just don't know what to do with him. I almost think the movie's more effective if nobody survives,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
kind of
probably
think
how the book intended.
I agree with that. I think he probably should. Everybody should have died, and it could have ended with like, because it shows Dracula in the bar, like in human clothes and stuff. And I think it could
Yeah,
have
and
ended
that
with
was
that and been effective.
the thing with him and the cane and the whatever. I feel like in my mind he's wearing like a top hat and
Yeah.
like a trench coat or something. That version of Dracula, if he's gonna transform into a human, he needed to change himself entirely to look human. And even then, I don't think they mesh well, those two types of This is very much the monster bat Dracula. I don't think we even needed to see any inkling of a human Dracula.
Right.
Like, let your mind figure that out, how the logistics work there. But in my head, if he was going to change to a human, he would have to do a lot more changing than that. Like, his face still looked like a bat
Yeah, like, it looked like the
face.
only thing that changed is his teeth weren't like super tiny and thin. They were just long and sharp now. And like
Yeah,
wide, but
it just felt like out of place a little bit. Like the whole movie was like this, and then once we're off of the boat, and it's this little blip at the end that's so short. That's just him writing the letter saying, "I'm gonna fight this vampire thing." That felt like from a different movie, and then
yeah.
the whole rest was like one movie.
And maybe that was them
So,
trying to set up a sequel.
and overall, I mean, it sounds like I'm talking really negatively about this movie. I think we probably
Hmm.
both agree that overall this is not a bad movie at all. It's just I'm not sure how much I'll remember it in the long run. You might be a little more positive than me on it. What do you think about it
Uh, yeah, no, I mean, I
as a
enjoyed it.
whole?
I did feel like the pacing in the middle got a little slow, but it's a 2 hour movie, and like you said, it's just the same kind of thing happening to different people. But I did enjoy it, like more than I thought I would going into it. What would
I mean,
you?
what can you really expect to get out of this movie?
Right.
That's what I felt myself. There were times where I was watching this movie and I'm thinking, this is really not bad. I think I mean I like this.
Hmm.
What's wrong with it?
Yeah.
But by the end of it, I'm just like, there wasn't anything wrong with it. I just is it a ringing endorsement like you got to run out to the theater and see this? No,
Nah.
I don't think so. But I think you should, whenever this is on streaming, or if you're somebody that's like us and sees everything, then for sure see it. But if you're not like that and you just want, if you're a huge Dracula fan and you just got to see everything Dracula related, or a huge horror fan and you got to see everything horror related, then I would go see this. You're gonna have a good time.
Hmm.
And if not, whenever it comes out on streaming, I think you'll have a good time then too. It's really not a bad movie. It's just, yeah, the more movies you see, things, it takes a little bit more for them to like stand out against the pack. But you know, this is watching this many movies in a year is a first for I think both of us. So
Yeah.
it does change
Well,
your
in
perception a little
theaters
bit when
at
you see a
least.
lot.
Yeah.
Hmm. So
What
what
would
would you
you?
give it? Oh yeah,
I
well
was gonna ask you.
I
Uh,
can say I think I would give this either a 6 or a 6.5. It's above average. I think it's
we're
worth seeing.
we're spot on. I was gonna say the same thing. Six, probably 6.5. It
Hmm.
was a decent horror movie, and I think that it's because they had that formula from Alien and stuff, and just the creature was
The
cool.
formula just works, like
Yeah,
you take that alien formula and plug in something else. I mean that does work. And Dracula is about. I think I heard somewhere he's like the most depicted on screen fictional character ever,
I believe it.
and I can believe that.
Mm.
So this is the unique twist on that, and I think there's more positive than negative. Like I said, it's shot really well. Everybody's acting is good. There's just like not a whole lot of standouts.
Mm.
Nobody's acting is bad. So yeah, 6.5. Not a bad time at the movie theater. Um, so the next video we got coming out is The Passenger. So this is kind of like a little under the radar. I don't know how many people knew about this one, but if you want to watch this before our video comes out, it should be Thursday or so. That's the next one. It's straight to MGM Plus, so you
I
know.
think it's on Amazon too for like $5 or something.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, The Passenger might be interesting. But if you have seen this movie, we'd love to hear from you below what you thought about it. And if you haven't seen it, what's your favorite depiction of Dracula in a movie or favorite vampire movie, maybe?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for watching. As always, hit like if you like this and share it with your friends if you think you know somebody that might like it. And remember to subscribe as always. We would love to have you. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
All right. See ya.